Business is math, not popularity. And I think if more business owners knew how to do the business math, their businesses would grow faster. So today, let me show you how to do all the business math so you can scale your business faster, and I'll also give you some tools to make it a whole lot easier. So I'm relatively new to creating content on YouTube and video content on Instagram, things like that, but I'm not new to running online businesses. I've been doing it since 2011, generated nearly $30 million in revenue since then, and a lot of that in the last few years. And the reason I've been able to grow businesses is not because I just was doing everything behind the scenes. I was predominantly doing it through Facebook advertising, Google advertising, email newsletters, and then also audio only podcasting, which doesn't get your face out there as much, but can still grow a massive audience. Anyway, that's how I've been doing it. Now that I'm switching gears a little bit, I'm realizing there's a lot of content out there of people saying like, hey, all you need is organic content and you can grow your business. And then they kind of brag that they've never had to pay for leads or pay for customers. And I think that's great for these top 1%ers who are creating content and doing those things, but that's not the reality for everyone else. In fact, I've done it in reverse for the last 10, 15 years, and now I'm going more organic content heavy just to really have a pole in the water everywhere. So I'm doing a little bit of everything and have all my bases covered. But here's the deal. I have seen, and I know these teams of people who create organic content, they will spend 6 figures a year on a media team, and they'll spend 60 hours a week researching ideas, scripting, doing all these things for their content, and then they'll brag that they've never spent $1 on leads. But do you see the disconnect there between time and money and what they're actually investing to get the leads and customers? Advertising, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. It does take a little bit of time, but after you have the ads on, if they're effective, you can get leads and customers without having to use your time as much, and you can go do other things. And that's what I've been doing over the years. I think a combination of both, a hybrid approach, is the future. And if you really want to grow your business, it's not do ads and it's not do organic content. It's do ads and organic content. And I think if you can understand some very simple business math, which I'm going to go over, and I'm also going to give you some very simple tools that you can use so you don't have to write all this stuff down. You just use my tools and you can know, hey, how do I scale? How much can I pay for a customer? How much can I pay for an email subscriber? I'm going to give you all of that for free today in this video, and stick around. And this is how you actually grow a company. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 things right now. One, I'm going to show you exact math and one of the brands that I currently run to help you understand how this kind of business scaling math works. And then I'm going to show you a calculator of, interactive form that I created just for you so you can do this in your own business. One of the questions I get all the time when people start advertising or collecting leads for newsletter or collecting leads for whatever reason for their business and they're paying for them, the question is always, how much can I pay for a lead? And the answer is, it depends. So in my fitness brand, Garage Gym Athlete, right now, we collect email subscribers for about $1 a piece, which is incredibly low. For my personal brand, everything that, my current newsletter that you're probably subscribed to, if you're not, go into the description of this episode and make sure you sign up for that. Well, anyway, we're getting subscribers for that newsletter at about $2.50 to $3 per subscriber. And then some of my B2B brands, we've ranged anywhere from $10 to $50 to $100 per lead. And so which one's good, which one's bad? There is no good and bad. There's only when the math maths. That's all there is. And so there's not a bad cost per lead. There's only bad scaling math. So let's get into it. Let's break it down so I can show you exactly how this looks. Again, I'm going to be doing this for my fitness brand, Garage Gym Athlete, kind of show you how that works. And then we can talk about how it might look in your business. So diving right in. So in this business, we have leads, we have trials. So people signing up for a free trial to try out the service, and then trial to paid, and then also LTV. So it's cost per subscriber, subscriber to trial, trial to paid, and then lifetime value. That's something that you need to know right off the bat. Like I said, I'll make this make a lot of sense for your business by the end of this video. So our current cost per subscriber, I already mentioned, is about $1. And the subscriber to trial is 30%. So of all the people who subscribe to the email newsletter for this fitness brand, about 30% of them are going to end up becoming, starting a trial within the first 30 days of signing up. And of the people who start a trial, about 33% of them will convert to paid. And the lifetime value of one member is roughly $150. Now, this averages out with some people being really high and some people being really low, some trials not converting. It all just goes into the big wash for all of these things. And so I'll talk about all this a little bit more, but for this specific brand, that's kind of what it looks like. $1 for a subscriber, $1 for a lead. 30% of them are going to start a trial. 33% of those trials will convert to paid. And then $150 is the lifetime value. So let's see what that actually looks like when we break it down. Okay, so let's say I spend $100. I get 100 leads. People who are interested in this product or service. Now, of those, it's going to be very simple math from there. Of those 100 leads, following this, that 30 are going to become trials. Okay? And then 33% of them are going to end up paying. So when we jump to that, we now have 10 paid members. And then I'll talk about LTV in a minute. But ultimately, let's talk about the cost of all of these things. So if I have 100 leads at a dollar piece, I've spent $100. Subscriber to trial really costs me nothing. They just have to go through it. And then trial to paid, how much money do I actually make? Well, if I have 10 paid and it's $25 per month, that means I'm going to make $250 at the end of that trial. So this is costing me $100 and I'm making $250. So most business owners can do this math. They're like, oh, okay, I made $150. And that's good because I'm getting $150 profitably to get new people into my ecosystem. And this, I could sell them other things. We could do other things over time. They get more bought in. They could stick around for longer than the average LTV. All of these things need to be factored in. But what people don't actually look at is the LTV. So you look at this and in my mind, it's already good. But a lot of business owners even quit here because they're like, oh, you spent $100 and you're only making $150. And I'm like, where else can you do that in the stock market? Can you go do that in the next week where you put in 100 and get $150 in the stock market with it being relatively hands off? And the answer is most likely no, unless you really know what you're doing. But the LTV of these 10 people equals $1,500, right? So that changes the math dramatically, right? So I'm making $1,500. So that counts all this. So it's really, I'm spending 100 to make 1,500. Spending 100 to make 1,500. That is the most scalable business model you could think of. It's not massive. Like, it depends on what you're selling, right? I don't recommend most people doing what I do or have done at Garage Gym Athlete with a $25 a month membership. And the main reason being is because we have such high volume and traffic from having had a website for 10 or 15 years and a podcast and all these other things. We have a higher lead volume than most people. So I don't recommend a $25 a month membership. So if you're selling something more expensive, which is what I typically recommend, the math gets even better. And so that's what I want to dive into next and what this could look like for your business. But you see how the simple scaling math of taking into account your LTV changes everything. So if you can stomach the LTV, because I could even spend, if my cost per subscriber went up to $3 cost per subscriber, and this cost me $300 to get 100 new leads, and I still only made $250, I'm going to lose 50, right? I'm going to lose $50 in the short term. In the long term, I'm still going to be making money. And that's why most business owners can't really scale through advertising, is they don't do this math, or they don't trust and believe that it's actually possible for them. So let's look at this for your specific business, and I can show you what to do to make sure that you're on a safe scaling path. All right, so now let's take a completely different business model, and we're going to start with your LTV because most people don't know how to do this, and we're going to be doing back-of-napkin math LTV here. So let's say the total revenue you've made as a company is $600,000. All right, and then of that $600,000, that was across 400 customers. So this is really simple. All right, we are saying all the money you've ever made in your business, that's the revenue amount you want to take, and then all of the customers you've ever had, and then you divide the total revenue by the total customers, and now you have your LTV. Now you could do this in other ways, but I think that this is the easiest way to do it for most people. So in this example, if I have $600,000 in total revenue and I've had 400 total customers, my LTV is $1,500 per customer, way better than what we're looking at in a low ticket $25 a month membership. All right, so $600,000 total made in the lifetime of this company, 400 total customers. Now, one thing that we're going to do is how much are you willing to spend to acquire a customer? Okay, so you could go the full 100 amount, meaning if I'm going to make $1,500 from a customer, I'm willing to spend $1,500 to acquire a customer. I don't recommend most people going there unless you're trying to scale really fast and you're in a very competitive market. So let's say that you're willing to do 50% of your LTV, so $750. So let me just break this down again. So you have a lifetime value of $1,500 for a customer in this example, and you're willing to spend half of what your LTV is, meaning you'd still make the other half in profit, but you're saying, hey, I will spend $750 to acquire a customer. And where you actually need to adjust this is how much your expenses are in your business, because this doesn't take into account your team and other expenses like that. And so typically a safe profit margin for cost to acquire is going to be 20 to 30, 50% kind of on the high end. And if you're solo or trying to scale really fast, you can go up to 100 and you'll scale really fast and it'll work out mathematically. It'll just be a little bit uncomfortable. So let's say you're willing to spend 50%, which is $750. And if you're listening audio only, I'm still trying to make this all make sense for you, but there is a video version of this that you can watch and also get the calculator. So let's go back down to your collecting lead and your email conversion rate. So whatever your email conversion rate is when you're making an offer. So if you have 100 people on your list and you send out an offer and 5 of them decide to take you up on your offer, that's a 5% conversion rate. And that's what I have in here. And so what this calculator spits out is you can afford to pay $37.50 per email subscriber in your business specifically, okay? That's what you can spend, $37.50, and that's what's still being profitable. And this changes quite dramatically based off of how good you are at email marketing, conversion, all these kind of things. So say you could convert 10%. So say I had a 100-person email list and I converted 10% of them to buying my thing when I email out an offer. Now I can pay $75 for an email subscriber online. Do you see how the math really maths here? And you are still scaling. You are still profitable. And if you really want to do this, you really want to scale, you have to get slightly uncomfortable in how much you're willing to spend to acquire leads, because it's getting more expensive. But if it's still something you can afford, you ultimately should be doing it. And so enter in your numbers and see what it looks like for you. But here's the deal. Most people I know running businesses in this size, they've made $600,000, maybe they're making a couple $100,000 a year, maybe they're making $1 million a year. If I told them, hey, you can go spend, based off of your math, you can spend $75 for an email subscriber, they would never do it because it feels too uncomfortable for them. They don't understand the full math and how it actually will work out. And where it doesn't work out is typically in the short term. And most entrepreneurs cannot stomach the short term of running traffic, paid traffic, and so they turn it off. Here's the deal. I have never turned off ads. I've been running online businesses since 2011. I've never once turned off ads. Never done it. And the reason being is because there has to be some level of organic content and then what you're doing online and everything, but people need to be seeing offers, whether that's just to sign up for an email newsletter, whether that's to buy a thing. I've never turned off ads. Now, budgets have changed. They've fluctuated up. They've fluctuated down. Campaigns change, creative changes, everything's changed. Even the platforms have changed, but ads themselves have never been fully off in any of my companies. They are always running to some degree. And so if you can take that mindset of it's an investment, an actual investment, and you can do some math like I have here for you and a nice little calculator that'll do the math for you, you can realize that you can actually scale your business, and it's not all that difficult. It's just math. So going back to where we started this episode, business is not a popularity contest. Whether you're trying to get viral on TikTok or, create more organic content, that's all well and good. But ultimately, business is math. And if you can understand scaling math, you can actually scale your company. But in order to do that, you have to be willing to go through the uncomfortable stages of spending the money, but understanding the mathematics behind it and that it will work out. And you'll actually be able to scale your company a whole lot faster when you understand all of this, but you're going to have to try hard to do it all. Try harder.